Hello, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Mary. Welcome to From the Heart.
Orlando is widely known for its tourist spots and attractions, but many people don't know about its thriving arts community.
We're happy to introduce to you talented artists and passionate leaders whose ideas are shaping our arts community. How do they create and why? And how will Orlando benefit from a growing arts presence?
On each episode, we'll meet guests who are influential leaders and artists who are truly making a difference.
From the Heart.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to From the Heart. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Mary.
And we're excited to bring to you all that's new and good when it comes to the arts in Central Florida.
Today, we're talking with John Dodonna, Program Chair and Artistic Director at Valencia College Theater, and also Creator, Director, and Writer of Phantasmagoria Orlando.
We look forward to learning about John and his current work within our community and our education system here in Central Florida. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
We're
Thank
so
you very
glad to
much,
have
guys.
you.
Pleasure to be here.
John, tell us about Phantasmagoria. How'd you get the name?
Well, the name is actually a centuries-old name. It's always been associated with ghost stories. The book Byron and Shelley were reading from, Phantasmagoria, Ghost Stories, was a German book. Lewis Carroll wrote a poem called Phantasmagoria about a little ghost that haunted the wrong person. So they were terrorizing this person, then realized at the last minute, wrong house, I have to go to the next house. Oh. And then, most especially, Phantasmagorias were ghost shows done in the late 1800s. When slide projectors started being used, people would come into a theater, they'd do a seance, and ghosts would project on the walls, and they didn't know. They thought they were real ghosts. So those were called the Phantasmagorias. So that's where we got the name from. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what does that include when you say the word Phantasmagoria?
Yeah.
Is it dance? Is it acting? What is it?
Keep going.
Yes.
It is. It's a Victorian horror circus is kind of how we've always approached it. That's from day one we've started with that, and then we've evolved it as we've gone. So we tell stories. We tell stories of literary horror, we tell folklore, we tell legend, we even go into religious mythology. And we tell all of these stories through dance, through storytelling, through large-scale puppetry, through aerial, through fire dance. All of these things we kind of integrate into, I don't want to say a three-ring circus, but certainly a circus that performs all of these. So you may have a dance that tells a whole story about a music box, beautiful music box ballerina that dies when she's been unplugged. Or you may have a 20-foot-long Jabberwock come bursting out of the theater and 20 people fighting it with swords and with axes. So we try, it's definitely spectacle, but one of the beautiful things about it is we concentrate on the stories, you know, and we spend the better part of a year each year as we develop a new play, researching these stories, finding the origins of it. Recently, we wanted to do a specific type of vampire story. So we found one that was based in the late 1800s that took us back to the origins of that story that was in the 1700s, that took us back all the way to 1120, where that legend first appeared in a history book about England. So it's an amazing journey that we take to learn about these stories and bring them to life on stage.
So it's a little bit of the darker side of theater, right? How's that been received by the community?
It's a little bit of both, because yes, it's definitely darker. And most of the time that we perform it is around the Halloween season, although we are branching out. And about 3 years ago, we started performing 12 months out of the year, which is kind of incredible. But we also, the whimsical side of horror. People forget that there's this humor to horror, and you can do a story like the original Metamorphosis, the Kafka Metamorphosis, and it is hysterical on stage when you do it. Or you could do one of our most popular ones is a Charles Dickens piece called Captain Murderer. And you wouldn't imagine how little children and adults laugh at this horrible captain who chops up his wives and eats them in pies. But that's but that's the essence of horror, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you go back to the Grimm's fairy tales, they're funny. Yeah. They appeal to adults. They appeal to children.
Right.
We like to be scared sometimes, and we like to laugh while being scared too. So I think it appeals to that kind of an audience.
Very cool.
I saw one of your Phantasmagoria productions, and it was like a tapestry. I wasn't even sure exactly what the stories were at certain times, but it didn't matter. I was it was a feast for the eyes. There was someone on point, on toes, and there was someone on aerial, and then there was poetry, and then there was music, and then there was these group pieces, and it was just visually, it was stunning.
Thank you. I love that word tapestry you used. I don't think I've heard that before. That's
I
very
like
nice.
that too, a tapestry of the arts. So do you have to be a triple threat to be in Phantasmagoria? Do you have to sing, act, dance?
You learn to be a triple threat. This has been the joy of the process. You take a ballerina and tell her all of a sudden she has to do lines in a play. That's a terrifying experience for them. You take an actor and tell them they need to learn to do the minuet. That's a terrifying experience for them. You take somebody who's never had a sword in their hand, and we have to do a 10-minute sword fight here. It's terrifying at first, but we've all been learning together. I mean, most of the members of the troupe have been together for about 6 years. Wow. So we've all learned these skills together. And at this point, sometimes it's indistinguishable between the actors and the dancers and the chorus and the puppeteers. And we keep adding skills. So recently, about 4 years ago, we started adding fire performance into what we do. So right now we have 11 trained fire performers in our show. So we do fire dancing and fire breathing and fire eating and manipulation, all that. So you don't have to be a triple threat when you come in. You just have to be open to learning. Yeah,
Love
expanding.
that. That's the teacher in you, right?
Yeah, I think so. You're probably right. It goes back to Valencia, obviously, and everything that I do there. And it just is about learning together as an ensemble. The ensemble is vitally important in this show. We rely on each other.
And so evident. You can tell that company is tight.
They are. As friends, and we fight because we're like a family, So we'll fight and we'll come back together and we'll find collaboration and compromise for a lot of the things that we do. And it shows up best when we do special events, because we'll go to a special event. We've been doing more and more, about 3 to 4 a month. And sometimes we go to a place that has a beautiful stage. And sometimes, very recently, we did an event in a retail store that had a little tiny space for us as a stage, no microphones, and we had to be able to be heard over about 1,000 people in the location. And we were able to do it because we relied on each other, and we adapted around each other as we did the show.
So you're saying it's a family. How do you find the right people for that family? Where do you look for these kind of performers?
At the beginning, it was all chosen. In other words, we called people we wanted to work with and said, hey, we've really enjoyed your work over the years. Or even people we didn't know. We've enjoyed watching you over the years. We'd like to bring you aboard and try this, So they all came aboard, and it all seemed to work. So that family that we created there extended to the second year. But then anything that you do over a period of 6 years, people are going to have to come and go. So we have had auditions. The auditions are difficult because we're looking for that family chemistry. So very recently we had, we had to break it down. We had auditions that involved stage combat, involved dance, involved movement, involved storytelling, And most of the time you go into an audition, you know what people are looking for. These people, they had no idea. Because most of the time when you were a storyteller up on stage, we weren't even looking at you. We were looking at the others sitting around as the chorus and how they're relating to them,
That's
so
cool.
it was, but that's how we've done it. And each time we've had auditions, we've only added two to maybe 7 people at the most. Each time we've done it, And those are people there to fill in the expanding troupe, because we have had to add more and more members. The more special events we do,
right?
the more out-of-state shows we do, we've had to add members, Sometimes we have 2, 3 people playing the same role just to compensate for that, And we're at about, I'd say, mid-20s, maybe around 27 people involved right now. Originals and periphery that perform these shows.
If for someone who has never seen a Phantasmagoria or maybe even been to theater in quite a while, how can they come and prepare themselves to enjoy and get the most out of your show, and why should they come see it?
It's fantasy. Immerse yourself in another world. That is what the whole purpose is. We want to immerse you into this fantasy world. You're going to forget some of the troubles, like any good theater should do, And hopefully they're going to see some parallels. Some of the stories, we choose them on purpose. The stories have parallels to the world around us nowadays. So each year, that's somehow how they change. And it's just allow yourself to be lost. And let's say you're somebody who loves music, where you're going to be able to come and hear original music and watch live cello playing. And we recently added violin players to the show, too. Let's say that you love dance. You can come for that particular aspect of it, right? And watch the dance throughout. Let's say you love storytelling. Then come and just listen to the stories, watch them come alive. So that's the beauty of it, is that we don't just tell stories, we let them come alive. And then there's the last element of the show, which is interactive. So our performers play in and around the audience. So be ready for that. Be ready for any given time to look down and somebody's clinging to your leg, because we try to involve them in the world of Phantasmagoria.
Well, we have time for one more question. If people want to find out more about Phantasmagoria, do you have a website you can tell us?
We do. We have a couple of different ways to find out about us. We have a website, www.phantasmagoriaorlando.com, and that is our main website. And of course, on Facebook, you can find us on facebook.com, Phantasmagoria Orlando.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
I wish we had more time with you, but we'd get to come back for more segments.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we're out of time for this segment with John Dodonna of Valencia College Theater and Phantasmagoria Orlando. Please join us when we return to hear about John's personal artistic journey to date. From the Heart.